Hi, my name is Ann Edenfield-Sweet. I'm the Executive Director of Wings for Life International, and I am so excited that you are with us tonight here for our program. This is our fifth talk that Don Shapiro is going to do for us, and tonight he's going to talk about expanding possibilities. And this is all wonderful research that has come out from Search Institute out of Minneapolis. And they work with young people. They've been doing this over 40 years. They've come up with the 40 developmental assets that we always talk about. And now they're working on how can we better communicate with, as adults, with youth and our children. And so Don has done just an excellent job about this. And now tonight, talking about expanding possibilities. So I am so excited that Don is here with us tonight. So Don, tell us all about it.
Okay. Hi, thank you, Ann. It's really a delight to be here. As you can see, that this is a topic called developmental relationships. It's very, very much linked to the 40 developmental assets that some of you who come to Wings know about, and others as well. And there are 5 elements in the developmental relationships, and this one is called the fifth element. Don't get this confused with the science fiction movie with Bruce Willis, The Fifth Element. That's a whole different story. This is real. So let's begin. Okay. I want to start by just kind of giving you a little bit of a summary of the 5 elements. This is the developmental relationships framework, and it's from the young person's perspective. The course is really for you, for adults, parents, social workers, anyone who cares for young people and wants to help them grow. In the first week, we talked about something called expressing care. And in this element, the young person is saying, show me that I matter to you. So the tasks that we're wanting to share with you are things that you can do so that you can show a young person that you care. The second one that we did was called provide support. In this one, the young person would be saying, help me complete the tasks that I need to take care of and achieve my goals. So providing support is the second element. The third one was challenging growth. Push me to keep getting better. Not necessarily pushing, but encourage me. Stand behind me, help me, or pull me forward even to help things get better. The fourth one, which we did last time, was called sharing power. The word power is a kind of a strange word, but if we talk about empowerment, I think it feels a little friendlier. So a young person wants to be treated with respect, and they want to have a say in things that affect them. I came from a meeting with some young people today who were giving feedback about how we might want to structure some of the workshops that they're taking, what would be good, what wouldn't be so good. Having input is really, really important. And today, we're going to talk about expanding possibilities. And there are 3 parts to this or more. One is connecting young people with other people, with ideas, new experiences, and places that broaden their world. So again, expand possibilities. Please connect me with people, connect me with ideas, experiences, and places that can expand who I am as a person. Okay, one of the important ways that we grow through relationships, and remember, all of this is about building relationships, it's all connected, is to help each other to expand possibilities. Sometimes we can't do that on our own. We help each other by connecting with people, with ideas and places, as we said. Right now, many of us may still be, even though it's getting a little bit better, feeling kind of cooped up from quarantine, sheltering in place. But we're going to focus anyway on some ways that we have in the past or could in the future expand possibilities for each other. When I say each other, it might be a family member, it might be a friend, it might be a neighbor, somebody from the community. Okay. The Search Institute, who has developed this model, finds that there are 3 things that we actually do that can expand possibilities. One is inspiration. We want to inspire people to see possibilities for their future. We want to broaden their horizons by exposing them to those new ideas and then connecting them with other people who can help them grow. what comes to mind is William. William was a young man that I worked with at CYFD for a long time. And he was kind of feeling lost. He didn't know what he wanted to do with his life. And I would meet with him sometimes, and we would take a walk, and we would just talk about, whether he should find a job. He sort of didn't like the jobs he was finding, whether he ought to go back to school. Didn't really know. He seemed just kind of apathetic about it. And then one day we were walking down the street in Albuquerque, and he pulls out his cell phone with his camera, and he's taking pictures of stuff on the ground. I said, William, what are you doing? He said, you see that over there? I said, no. He said, that's graffiti. I said, oh my God, I didn't even see it. He said, I know who did that. This guy's from California. His name is blah, 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 and I know about him. As a matter of fact, if you look up on the building, you'll see another one by him. I said, you're taking pictures? He said, yeah, I want to do a book someday, maybe on the graffiti of Albuquerque. Really? I said, with a camera? He said, well, I don't have a real, with a cell phone. He said, I don't really have a camera. I never did. And I don't really know how to use them. I don't have any training. All of a sudden I said, would you be interested in having a camera? Would you be interested in getting training? And for the first time in months, a huge smile emerged from his face and his eyes lit up. He said, you can do that? I said, we can do that. Within 2 weeks, he was at DVR, Division of Vocational Rehab. He was accepted. Within a month, he had his own equipment, a camera, a laptop, a computer, and he began developing this book using that equipment. He then decided that he wanted to get away from Albuquerque, so he moved to Oregon, and for the last year, he's been living in Oregon, working on some other films and some other projects, and he's doing graffiti there as well. William is on our website. He was one of the people who came to our prison family days to see his father. But he felt inspired. Suddenly he realized that there was something he could do that he loved. One is that it broadened his horizon so that he felt he could move. He didn't have to stay in town. He could go to another place that he longed to go to and develop some new experiences and meet new people. And in that, he was also introduced to some photographers and videographers in Portland that he now is connected with. So we can get really focused on the here and now, and we often need other people to help us see new things. We're kind of sometimes caught in the present tense, and it's good to be in the present, but not stuck in the present. Something about expanding possibilities builds on some of the actions that we talked about in the earlier weeks of this program. It helps most when it comes out of caring and out of support. So when William and I talked about photography, it wasn't just an idea, and I said, oh, it sounds like a good thing, you should go do it. But he wanted to know how. He knew I cared, I think, but he wanted support, and that's where DVR came in, that there were some people. And we found out that his DVR worker was also a professional photographer and became kind of a mentor to him for a couple of months. So this provides security that allows the freedom to explore to happen. If somebody tries to expose you to new ideas and you don't trust them, or you don't feel they care about you, or that they're not going to support you once you get started, and that could be a parent, a sibling, a friend, an employer, someone in the community, then you get a little bit nervous and you don't feel safe. So expanding possibilities also involves building connections with people beyond our immediate family and friends. You know, we especially during COVID, we probably had somewhat of a limited number of people that we hung out with. But even without COVID, sometimes we kind of stick with the people we know. I grew up in Brooklyn. I never wanted to leave Brooklyn. I was terrified. And one day my aunt and uncle in Arizona said, hey, Don, why don't you come out? We'll get you into college at the University of Arizona in Phoenix. You could stay with us and do all of that. I was terrified. And I didn't know my uncle and aunt that well. And I decided not to do it. But later on, and I'll tell you a story later, I met a teacher who trusted in me, who enabled me to feel safe. And I took some risks and chances to expand my life in ways that have changed my life entirely. I was a musician. That was my lifestyle. I wanted to be a professional guitar player, rock musician, and travel the world. But I was in college, and I took a course in sociology, and the professor at the end of almost near the end of the semester, approached me, and she said, "Don, I have an idea for you. What do you do in the summer?" And I said, "Oh, I'm playing music." And she said, "Well, how would you like to work in a group home for young people?" I said, "What?" And she said, "I know you've been your term paper was about young people, about kids who join gangs, and I think you have a caring for young people. We have a place called the Ottilie Home for Children in Brooklyn, and they need somebody to live in for 3 months and work with some of the young people who are, who have been very traumatized and somewhat emotionally, damaged and injured." I didn't know what I wanted to do, and she said, "Come on, give yourself a chance. You might discover something." I trusted her. She was a wonderful teacher. I signed up with an application, and a week later I was hired in this paid job to work in a group home and live there, something I'd never even done in my life. When I left there in 3 months, my life was changed, and I decided to go into social work and counseling. Totally had an impact, expanded my possibilities. And she wasn't somebody who I was close to. I didn't know this professor as a friend or family member, but somehow she gave me confidence. She gave me what they call self-efficacy, the belief that I could do this. And I said, "Well, I could always take my guitar with me, right?" She said, "Sure you can." And so I went there, and that was the beginning of a whole new life for me. These broader connections that aren't immediately part of our immediate life are called loose ties. I don't mean the tie you wear around your neck, but they're different than close ties. And they're important, especially if we're growing and want to be part of a diverse community. They're also what we call social capital. You know how money is called capital? If you got money in your pocket, you can do stuff. You could buy stuff. You can influence things. Social capital comes from the people you know. And so we learn to connect with people who are different from us in many ways, but they enrich our lives. And because we live in a pluralistic society, we can take advantage of that. So who I know is social capital. The folks that I'm looking at right now are part of my social capital. They're people who I can count on for support, for encouragement, and sometimes, for ideas. Yay, Anne and Mike and Mary and our new friend over here from David, yeah. And we call this bridging social capital, being able to connect with resources that add to our ability to get things done, the things that we love and care about. This is a kind of a complicated chart, but basically it's resources, material and emotional support is part of that come from a web of relationships, okay, that people can access and mobilize to help them improve their lives and achieve their goals. You'll have all of this on our website, so if you want to delve into this chart more deeply, I welcome you, and call me if you want to talk about it. Okay. Important adults who are social capital members, we could say, could be all kinds of people. They could be extended family members and neighbors, teachers. I talked about my professor, faith leaders, people here at Calvary, for example, who work with the youth programs. One of our staff, one of our volunteers who's helping us today, I have a feeling comes from one of those youth programs. Coaches, employers, mentors, non-family members, important adults, beyond our immediate scope. Okay, so what does it mean to really expand possibilities? Or it means expanding our horizons and relationships helps kids as they grow up. New opportunities, finding out how the world works. I don't know a lot. I didn't know anything about social work when that teacher kind of got me involved. I suddenly found out that there are young people who spend lives in institutions, in group homes, and they don't see their families. I didn't know about that. So my education was improved. It affected my work. I decided I wanted to work in the field, and affected my civic life. I joined organizations that supported and advocated for young people. So total transformation. So it also means how we can hold on to meaningful roles that are also responsible roles in society, as a volunteer, as a neighbor. I have a neighbor who is so wonderful that she kind of watches our house when we're not around, and she feels that's an important role. She says, Don, when you and your wife are away, I'm going to be right there watching the house, and if your cats need some help or something, if you're gone for the day, let me know. We also can learn more about ourselves, and we develop allies or colleagues or friends or supporters. And if we're in a crisis, we can call on them. Okay? We also learn how to engage new cultures and nationalities. We live in such a diverse world right now, and I'll tell you a couple of stories later about how expanding possibilities fits into a very diverse culture that we experience in New Mexico. So it's a big world out there, right? And a big part of growing up is finding your place. Who am I in the broader world? What are the options for me? I grow up and I might feel limited. I feel like the only people I know are white-collar workers. I don't want to be a white-collar worker. I want to do something different. Or maybe I do. So we're going to provide you with some activities, some of which we'll talk about briefly today, but they'll all be on our website, and I encourage you strongly to sit down with your mom, dad, uncle, aunt, sister, brother, or young people, if you're an older person, and try out some of these activities. But before we go, why is it important again? It's important to develop a strong web of adult people who support us. Kids need to have positive relationships with adults other than their parents. We live in a scary world, and sometimes people are very frightened about who has contact with our kids. But if we're careful and cautious, and we know the people who are going to be engaging with our young people, I think we're okay. It doesn't mean we pass our young people on to strangers or people who offer to help. We have to be careful and use our wisdom. But there are many, many people. As we can see in this picture, it reminds me of myself back at the Door Youth Center when we were helping young people do arts and crafts. And it reminds me of the Wings days that we have during the holidays when volunteers come in and work with our children and create beautiful things together. And these young people remember that. They remember the adults who have, kind of liked them and cared for them and trusted them and taught them stuff. Another aspect of why it's important is, what do other adults offer? Okay, they offer ways to expand ideas of who you could be in the future. Again, that story, or the story about William, who, in my case, I was somewhat helpful in him figuring out who he wanted to be. Another young man named Mason, who's a guy who came to our program at Wings for a long time, and I discovered something. He was for several years in the youth facility, and while he was there, he built a labyrinth, which is so unusual for a teenager. He built this beautiful place where people can walk and meditate, and I loved it. And when he came out of the system, and I continued to work with him, I asked him about the labyrinth, and he said, I love building them. And I found a woman who teaches workshops on labyrinths and invited him to be a guest speaker at one of those conferences. And he taught people how to build labyrinths, and he's still doing them right now in Las Cruces. So again, who he was and how he sees himself now is very different. I think he saw himself through my eyes, because I saw him as a creative, talented person, and he didn't always have that kind of feeling about himself. Okay? So receiving guidance and support that they might not be open to from parents, but they're interested in getting it from others. At a previous workshop, I talked about being a mentor for a couple of young people, and I got them into the Boy Scouts. And in some ways, that's been a life-changing event for them. Positive, natural mentors. We hear the word mentoring all the time. But having somebody who's a natural mentor, just somebody that connects, helps people do better in school. It helps them complete school, go to college. The research shows that people are more satisfied in their lives. They engage in good health, and there are fewer at-risk behaviors. in a program that I'm working with now, which is training young people to become paramedics and EMTs, each student has a mentor from the fire department, from the ambulance department, who's a paramedic, who's an EMT, who's a nurse, doctor, first responder. And that person is there for the 5 months that they're going to be in the program to help them, to teach them about their world, about the careers that they're looking into getting involved in. And it's very exciting. And the mentors, again, expand their ideas of who they might be, give them guidance. Okay, we know that not all young people experience these kinds of relationships. Connections with people who they can trust, people who care about them, don't happen for a lot of kids. There are kids who long for it, but there's no one around. They don't have positive contact with caring adults. The adults they care for, are gangbangers or people who are in trouble. When I was 14 years old, my father told me not to hang out in a specific part of our neighborhood because he knew who would influence me possibly if I wasn't careful. And they were adults that, they had cool cars and they had all kinds of interesting things going on, but they were not for me. And so my father got me in the Boy Scouts, and that was a way to get me out of that neighborhood, bought me a guitar, and that helped as well. So parents need to help kids connect with other caring adults who can expand their horizons again. Okay. Online expansion. The internet is a phenomenal place for expanding our possibilities, but of course we have to be careful. Parents worry about what young people are looking at online, and it's good to provide supervision and support and talk about it. What are you doing today on the internet? What did you find out? What did you learn? A few positive opportunities. Connect with people from different backgrounds. Learn about different cultures, what they do, what they love. I discovered there's an island called Mauritius. I discovered it online. It's in the Indian Ocean, where people from every religion and every background live harmoniously together. Never heard about it before. It's right now suffering from the potential of climate change, which means it's at sea level, and as the ocean tides get higher, there's a chance that those people might have to move. But it's a beautiful environment, beautiful culture. Everybody celebrates diversity. I learned about that through the internet. We also learned that we're all one. In many ways, we're human. Some people say children of God if you're a spiritual person, but we're all one. But we're all, and different, but also the same in many ways. And so we can explore online how people are different, how are they the same, and what does that mean for us, and how does that make a better world? Expanding possibilities online also gives us help, assistance, support, tips, guidance, and advice. If we're looking for help, hotlines that are available for people who are feeling depressed or feeling suicidal, other kinds of organizations that support people's interests. If they're LGBTQ, if they're somebody who has a disability, there are support groups that you can find online. Parental control is important. We got to manage the risks. With appropriate cautions, the technology can be really powerful. An unbelievable way to expand possibilities. Excuse me. So again, it's a big world out there. And a big part of learning to be a grown-up is finding your place in the world and discovering options that really fit who you are, who you would like to be. 3 things I want to focus on for the remainder of the course is inspiration, broadening horizons, and connecting. Okay, so inspire me to see possibilities for my future. Here we have a quote from Nelson Mandela, very inspiring quote. When somebody inspires us, they make us want to do something. They give us ideas that give us energy. We get uplifted by that. As parents, we point our kids towards things that are meaningful, and we want them to grow to become their best selves. We want to celebrate who inspires you. So again, inspire me to see possibilities for my future. A family activity here, called a little inspiration, please, is sit down with your family and identify areas where each person could use a little bit more inspiration to achieve a goal. Sometimes we need a boost. And then each person can write down on the top of the sheet a circle and a goal that they have in there, and then talk about the challenges they're feeling or facing to achieve that goal. They pass the sheets around, and underneath the circle, everybody writes one way that they want to encourage that or inspire that young person to keep moving forward. And you keep doing this till everybody's had a chance to inspire each other. So think of using as your whole family as an inspirational source. Broaden horizons. Some of you may or may not know Greta Thunberg. She's 18. At the age of 15, she became an environmental activist in Sweden, fighting climate change. She's almost won the Nobel Peace Prize. She's been nominated 3 times. She's now 18. And she started by helping her family be more careful about how they treated the environment, what they did with waste, how much electricity they used, how conservative they could be to protect our planet. And she is a hero. So we look for people who can inspire us. Sometimes they're the Nelson Mandelas and the presidents and the heads of organizations and sports figures, but sometimes it's a 15-year-old girl who's changing the world. Okay, we have to move beyond our comfort zone. Things we do are very comfortable, but a big part of growing up is kind of stretching a little bit. And we talked about in an earlier workshop. Okay, again, expose me to new ideas, broaden horizons. There's a couple of networks here that you can link to if you download or go to our website to brainstorm ways to make a difference in the world, to volunteer. This is about service, about doing a volunteer session to see if it's a good fit with you. Wings is always looking for volunteers, but so is the church, and so are the schools. And so every nonprofit would love to have somebody who can come along and use their skills and their caring to make a difference. On this page on the website, you'll find some really great links that will help you discover ways you can volunteer. And then introducing me to people who can help me grow is the last one. Everyone benefits from having a web of positive relationships. Trustworthy adults, caring adults, and getting comfortable with asking for help from other people. Then discover connections that you have that can enrich other people's lives so you can pay it forward. When you're getting support from someone, there may be somebody who's waiting for you to give them some support and expand their possibilities as well. Okay. There is a thing called the Web of Developmental Relationships, which is a wonderful activity. Let's see if it opens up. It would be great if it did. There it is. It worked. Okay. On your website, you'll find this chart. And for each of these sections, sharing power, expanding possibilities, expressing care, and there's one more that I can't see here. There it goes. Challenging growth and providing support. Take this diagram, make a copy of it, sit down with your friends and family, and put people's names in this circle. Who are the people that express care to you? Who are the people that are challenging you to grow? Who are the people that are providing support? Is there a blank here? Is there a place where something's missing? Maybe nobody's helping you share power. But then you have expanding possibilities. Who are the people in your community? The people in different programs that you are involved in? The schools you go to? And the family. Okay? Let me see if I can get this closed. Okay. There we go. Yay, it worked. Almost worked. Just back to the slideshow. Okay. Okay. So ask each family member to think of people in different parts of their lives. See if you can come up with 10 people. That would be awesome. Okay. I'll skip a couple of these for time, but a young person's perspective, this is a quote from a young person who said, relationships are important to me because there are different people out there, different points of view. They live different lives, and they could possibly know things that you don't. Okay? People talk about different points of view. I call it points of view. I can see things from where I'm standing. You see things from where you're standing. And they may be different, but we can learn from each other. Okay. What worlds can you open up? You'll find discussion starters to work with your kids in this PowerPoint that you'll find online. And also for other parenting adults, there are also activities such as, what are the ways you've introduced your kids to different people? What's worked? What didn't work out so well? I remember when I was introduced to these two young boys that I was doing mentoring and got them involved in the scouting, the great-grandmother who helped me find those boys and work with them is somebody that I would call every month and say, Grandma, tell me, how is it going? Is it working? Is it not working? What do you think? You wanted me to help be a role model for these kids as a father figure. Is that helping? Is it working? And we talk about it. Okay. Find out where you could use a little bit more inspiration to achieve a goal in your family and how each one of you can help each other. Okay? Okay, here's a good one because this is a wing. If you come to Wings when we're open, you'll find that we start with these little openings or greetings where people meet each other, they get to know each other, they ask each other questions. We call them conversation starters. How do you start a conversation with somebody you don't know? Okay? Be careful online, but in person, how do you do that? How do you get comfortable meeting new people? It's tough. And we're going to show you some tips very quickly. Think ahead, prepare questions in advance. Our director, Ann, gives us a question. We approach somebody we don't know, and we talk about that topic, and we share common experiences or different experiences. Make sure you introduce yourself. Hi, my name's Don. It's great to meet you. Make eye contact. Start with small things. Don't get too personal. Show you're interested, okay? One way to do that is if somebody says something about their vacation they just came back from, ask them to tell you more about it. What were some of the best parts? Or, I'm not familiar. I'd like to hear about that. Let go of preconceptions. Don't look at that person as though you already know them. Treat them like a stranger. And I'm going to say something about that at the end. Be open about yourself. Bring up ideas, but don't shoot them down if other people have other ideas. And practice getting to know people. Go up to people at school in your peer group that maybe you haven't talked to before. Get acquainted. And then close the conversation warmly. Like, wow, it's really great meeting you. A little elbow right now or fist bump or something that shows that you've made contact. Look at the tip sheet. Identify one or two tips that you think you could use in conversations in your own family and in your relationships with others. And I want to end with a very unusual chapter. I didn't know that I would talk about this, but there's a woman named Valerie Kaur who's written a book called See No Stranger. Okay, it begins by wondering. It's to look upon the face of someone and say, you're a part of me I don't know yet. This came to me because I saw a TV program, a news program, months ago in New York where a man walking down the street beat up a woman who was Asian and knocked her to the ground, and nobody did anything. People were watching from inside a lobby of a building and just turned their faces. And this is a story about a man who was very troubled, very upset, very stressed, and had heard all kinds of terrible discriminatory things about people from Asia. He thought that the COVID was caused by her. He saw an Asian woman, he was a bit crazy himself, and attacked her. But what if we see people as a part of me that we don't know yet? What if I just met you, and instead of thinking I know everything about you, say, you're a part of me, we're all human. So wonder is the wellspring for caring. It's easy to wonder about the internal life of the people closest to us, but it's harder to wonder about people who are strangers, okay? When we choose to wonder about people we don't know, when we imagine their lives, this is a quote from Valerie, and listen to their stories, we begin to expand the circle of who we see as part of us. And we do that at Wings every night when we were live, when we walk up to a person we never knew, saw them as a stranger, but then inquired and got to know who they really are. They were no longer invisible, right? This person who, I may have had even images of who they were, or stereotypes, or false beliefs. Like this gentleman thought this woman had caused COVID or something. What if we start with, I don't know you. I don't know who you are. And wonder is another way to love one another, and we know that's an important principle. The failure to wonder is where violence begins, as in that story. Once you stop wondering about other people, once they no longer see others as part of them, we disable the instinct for empathy. We stop caring about them. And if we lose empathy, then, or allow anything to be done to them, is what can happen. The people in the lobby had lost their empathy. They couldn't even help. Entire institutions are built to preserve the interests of one group of people over another, and they depend on this failure of imagination. So again, a couple of things. To wonder is to cultivate a sense of awe and openness to others. Oh my God, this person's amazing. I don't know anything about them, but I'm going to learn. Look in their face. Remember, you're a part of me that I don't yet know. And it's also a part of humility. It allows us to feel humble because we don't know everybody and we don't know everything. And we also can recognize that people are much more complex than we ever imagined. And wondering about a person gives us information on how to care for them. You can practice wonder with animals, trees. Sometimes I go out on my property and I'll see a tree I never saw before, and I wonder, where did that cactus flower come from, or that creature that's crawling up the trunk? And it gives me information on how to care for them. Wonder is really the wellspring of love. And one of the things I'd like you to take away is, what's the first memory of wondering about another person that you've had? Think of somebody in your life. Choose a moment that felt safe. Notice what openness and curiosity feels like when you allow yourself to connect in that way. How long has it been since you felt wonder about another person? Let's invite it into our lives. Begin a wonder practice if you can. And in our workshop, in the future, we're going to talk more about this and give you some ideas on how life can be a miracle that you can wonder about, and it'll help you expand opportunities, meet great people, and go to great places. Thank you so much for being here. It was a great joy. Take care, and don't forget to expand your possibilities. Bye.
Oh, wow. Don, that was fabulous. Wow. Boy, I learned so much, and I know everybody listening is going to learn a lot. And I just really, really appreciate you for that. I like to always close with a story. And so I'm going to close with a story, and I think it ties in with what Don was talking about. This story is Don't Quit, Keep Playing. Wishing to encourage her young son to make more progress on the piano, a mother took her boy to a Paderewski concert. After they were seated, the mother spotted a friend in the audience and walked down the aisle to greet her. Seizing the opportunity to explore the wonders of the concert hall, the little boy rose and eventually found his way to a door that said, "No admittance." When the house lights dimmed and the concert was about to begin, the mother returned to her seat and discovered, oh no, her child was missing. Suddenly, the curtains parted, the spotlights focused in on the impressive Steinway piano, and to her horror, the mother saw her son sitting at the keyboard, innocently picking out Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. Well, at that moment, the great pianist, he made his grand entrance. He quickly moved over to the piano and whispered in the little boy's ear, "Don't quit, keep playing." Then, leaning over, Paderewski reached down with his left hand and began filling in a bass part. Soon his right arm came around the other side of the child and he added the melody. Together, the old master and the young beginner transformed a frightening situation into the most wonderful, creative experience. The audience was amazed, and as it finished, they cheered. Well, that's the way it is in life, and that's what Don was talking about. What we can accomplish on our own is hardly noteworthy. We try our best, but the results aren't exactly graceful, flowing music. But when we put our trust in the hands of a greater power, our life's work can be truly beautiful. Next time you set out to accomplish great feats, listen carefully. you can hear the voice of the master whispering in your ear, "Don't quit, keep playing." And you know, it takes that other person to encourage us, doesn't it? Maybe it's a parent, a mentor. Don's stories about how he's encouraged William, about the little boys that now are Boy Scouts and just absolutely loving it. It took Don's caring. All of us can do that. You can do that too. So I encourage you to take everything that Don talked about tonight and put it to practice in your own life. And I will guarantee you, you are going to be blessed as well as all the people that you touch. Now, if you are with us on Facebook or YouTube, this is going to be the end of our program for you tonight. If you're on Zoom, stay tuned because we are going right into breakout rooms. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining us this week, and we will see you again at Wings for Life. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.